So this is the CNCF Tag Contributor Strategy meeting for our monthly overall tag meeting. We are, as always, subject to the CNCF Code of Conduct, so please be kind to each other. If you have any agenda items, why don't you go ahead and add them to the agenda? I see a lot of people have added some notes, so that's fantastic. So I think with that, we can go ahead and get started. We do have one person on the call who I'm not sure is a regular contributor, Sunny. I don't know if you want to just chime in and let us know why you're here, what you're hoping to get out of it, so that we can make sure that your needs are addressed.
Oh, hi, Don. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm Sunny. I'm dialing in from Palo Alto, California. I've been on the CNCF tag security as well as contributed to the requirements for SPIFFE Spire since its inception through graduation. So familiar with the CNCF project. So wanted to attend this session to see how I can contribute more into the CNCF tag working group.
Cool.
Amazing. Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining us. Since we made you introduce yourself, maybe we should introduce ourselves. Josh, did you have something else to add?
Yeah, I actually wanted to introduce myself and particularly actually ask Sunny about something in particular. So I'm Josh Burkus. I'm co-chair of the tag. I'm also with Dawn, co-chair of the governance, Dawn and Ali, co-chair of the governance working group. And particularly one of the things after doing the governance review of cloud events, one of the things that we maintain for projects is a set of project templates, because the CNCF requires you to have certain virtual paperwork for your project. And so we try to keep templates for that. And we are hoping to generate variants on those templates specifically for specification projects. And the review of cloud events has given us some material for that, and you could contribute more.
Awesome, Josh. Thank you very much for the intro and the template information.
Cool.
Dawn, you want to go ahead?
I'm Dawn Foster. I am one of the other co-chairs of the tag, also involved in the governance working group, as Josh mentioned. I'm director of data science with the CHAOSS project as far as the day job goes. Catherine, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Catherine, also one of the co-chairs. I'm mainly focusing right now on our new Deaf and Hard of Hearing initiative, which is hopefully going to become an actual working group very soon. And my day job is at Buoyant, the creator of Linkerd. And then I'll just go, Rian, maybe? Do you want to go?
I hope my generator in the background is not too noisy. I'm Rian. I work with II, and I am the co-tech lead with Ali of the working group. And I'll pass it then on to Nate.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nate W. I am I guess they call me a developer advocate over here at the CNCF. And with that role, I have two primary responsibilities. I help with technical writing and whatnot. So I help projects organize and write their documentation. And the other part is I help run the mentorship programs across the CNCF with a lot of help from a lot of folks on this call, including, I don't believe you've been introduced yet, my co-chair on that working group, Jay.
Epic intro. Kia ora koutou, ko Jay Tihimotoku Ingoa. Hey Sunny, my name's Jay. Yeah, as Nate mentioned, co-chair of the mentoring working group, and work with Rian with II, based in New Zealand, as a community manager. So I work across education, industry, community, and local government entities to try and support people into cloud native. Right over to you, Ali.
Thank you.
Hello. So my name is Ali. I'm a tech lead, co-tech lead with Rian in this tag. So where I do stuff around the website. I also help with the mentorship programs and also do some governance related work. I live in Turkey. And Diane, do you want to go next?
Diane's
You're-
on mute.
I'm on mute because that was my fire alarm that went off because I burnt toast. Trying to get breakfast in here somewhere. I'm on the West Coast, so I'm on West Coast time. And I am the tech lead for the mentoring working group and working closely with Nate and all the mentoring folks. And I am working with a small data analytics company called Bitergia. So that's where I sit. Hi, Sunny. Welcome. And
Thank
I
you,
don't. Is there anyone else on the call, or was I the last on the list there?
I think I'm left.
Okay, there you go.
Hi, I'm Noah. I'm a TPM at Oracle. My day job is enabling other contributors, and I can be summoned into any gathering by saying the words non-code 3 times into a Google document. That pretty much sums it up.
Awesome. Thank you, Noah.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and welcome, Sunny. With that, let's dive into the agenda. We have working group report outs. So let's start with the mentoring working group.
Let me unmute here. Hello, everyone. Or Jay, did you want to take it, or would you like me to take it?
You're good.
All right then. So, hello everyone. Diane and I have been working on a data set analytics. I don't know exactly what we're calling, but we're looking at the effect of the mentoring programs, and we decided to start with the CNCF LFX program, and Diane has been helping to put together some visualizations around what it is that we're seeing. We're trying to figure out like what are our successes, how often are people being retained, like if you start in the mentoring program, do you continue to contribute afterwards? Do you become a maintainer? Do you become a mentor again? Where do you go after the fact? Do you get hired in the industry? Do you stay in university? What happens? And some of the data that we've got is really interesting, and Diane did a sneak peek in our last mentoring WG group, and you're welcome to watch that. I've got a link there. Probably I'd like to invite Diane to speak a little bit about what we're doing and what we're doing next, and we actually have now had a talk accepted to the LFX members summit. We're also targeting talk with OSS Japan to try and get some discussion around some of this type of work. So Diane?
So yeah, I'd encourage you to take a look at the video from yesterday, because then I don't have to repeat myself for that. But I've gotten through 2 years worth of data and created dashboards, and I have 2 more years. And this is just the CNCF LFX. We're kind of just focusing on that core group, and then we'll move over to the Google Summer of Code and the Google Docs, Season of Docs people. And there's a few other miscellaneous internships and things that are under Nate's bailiwick right now. And so we're kind of focusing on that and getting the dashboards right and the data. And so then I'm going to hopefully recruit a few hours of Nate's time in the next week or so, and walk him through how to do some of this and create the. And one of the reasons we were presenting yesterday was because we wanted to get people to ask, now that they can see what we have access to, what questions we should be asking. And most of and Ali asked the question yesterday too, is a lot of my focus is on retention and sort of career success. If you would, like if someone did a mentorship, did they end up getting hired by a member organization, or did they go someplace else? Is that someplace else still utilizing the skills they built? Like, is it a Kubernetes deployment or an Istio or whatever they were working on? Is that why they did it? So like, there's going to be some interpretation as well, and maybe a follow-up survey to some of them shortly, and we'll see. And it's just interesting insights. You know, some of it is like my pet peeve is people who don't have good Google profiles set up. So, and we can see sort of, if you are looking to get hired and you do not have a GitHub profile or a LinkedIn thing, maybe the mentorship thing for the mentee's career didn't work, but maybe they are still contributing to open source anonymously. And that's a win for us too. This is a resource that continues on. So some of that, and then kind of trying to figure out how to give that feedback to the mentors to incorporate into their best practices. And if we can get this automated, because I like to automate everything, then reapply it to other Linux Foundation mentorships or other foundations mentorships as a template. So there's my 2 cents pitch for the work we're doing, and it sounds grandiose. It's really still just a lot of grunt work to do in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much. And one of the things that I'm working with Diane and probably Josh and Dawn, we had a shared Google sheet that I would like to, if we can, pull into a CNCF-owned Google Drive for first off, I like collecting things in one space. It's where I do all the rest of my mentorship data sheets and all the rest of it. And what I do is as folks come on, like for instance, Jay and Rian get access to certain terms if they're participating. Ali has got access because he's a Google Summer of Code administrator, so it's handy to have this all in one spot. So I'd like to suggest that we do that with the analytics stuff here as well. So right now I do have the link there. I think probably very few of you have access at this exact moment. But like I said, I think that it's something that we can formalize access to, and that's part of the reason I wanted to bring it up here, is to figure out exactly how we might do that.
I actually asked for a GDocs account. I was given one, and now I need to find the information again because I didn't actually save it in my password keeper. So but other staff has actually given us one.
Okay, that's good to know.
So I just need to find the login information.
Yeah, it may be tied to the same set of I don't know. So let's take that offline, and we can discuss. Moving on.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be one of these annoying things again where it's an account with a password that we have to share around.
Well, no, but that's what I'm hoping to avoid actually. Is if we use this one, I can invite with certain access levels, anybody with a Google account to participate. And I think that keeping the thing in like this is in a CNCF owned account. It's like it's that way, and then anybody can be sort of added or removed as needed. So it would actually sidestep that whole sharing a password thing, because that's why it's like a Google Drive thing, not a Google account thing. Shall I move on? Is there any other comments, questions about that? Okay, so the other thing that often happens, I feel like it happens about 8 or 10 times a year, maybe more, is somebody asks, hey, what's the statistics on the mentoring right now? And this everyone should have access to, at least view. If you need edited access on this particular sheet, let me know. But I'm trying to collect a summary of every piece of mentoring data I have in one sheet, so that I can say, okay, people ask me, hey Nate, how many people were run through our various mentoring programs in the last 6 months, or in the last quarter, or the last X? And so I got tired of redoing that work over and over again. So I'm going to keep this sheet up to date, And this is the sheet that I will be sharing with folks who ask me that exact question. So they can make charts and whatnot of whatever selection or slice of that data that they want. If there are pieces that you would like to suggest I add, or pieces that you think are not accurate, or if there are pieces that you're like, this is clearly an unneeded column, let me know. Happy to make changes, and I'll probably keep things like various charts and whatnot in this as a as individual tabs, just to sort of keep a localized record of things. Some of this data is also what is driving the analytic stuff that Diane and I are doing. So before I move into specific program updates, any questions about that piece of information? Is that appropriate? Like if you said, hey, we need to talk to the TOC and I gave you this link, is that going to make you happier or sadder than the current process?
I like it. I think it's good to have it in one place so we can share with people.
Okay, happiness achieved. LFX term 2 is done. We had 32 successful mentees. We had I believe actually 2, I can't remember the number of I think we had everyone who, and I'm frantically checking now just because I don't want to be incorrect, but I think everybody who how can I say this? Everybody who wanted to pass, I believe, passed. Let me double check that just to make sure that I'm not. Yeah, I think we had 2 removed projects, but I don't think we had any failures. We did have one person. Actually, that is incorrect. I'm sorry. We did have one person withdraw due to illness. But so we originally had 38 projects, 36 successfully completed. 1 was withdrawn without selecting a mentee, and then again we had 1 person withdraw due to illness. Term 3 has started. We are at 42 projects now, representing 19 CNCF projects. And 55 mentors, and I believe this puts us at about 152 or 153. If these all pass, that'll be our number for the year, and our goal was to get 150 mentees through our various programs. So I think we are on track to hit our goal for the year, which makes me happy. I've also I went through, thank you to everybody who provided feedback on 2024's first term. I have now put that in place. I like to get these ahead of, I'd like to try to be like a year ahead with the planning on these. So as a term ends, we plan the next year's, like if once term 1 ends, we plan next year's term 1. I'm a little behind on that. So I'll be getting term 2 set up, and I'll open up an issue for discussion on that shortly. But that information is there now. And so I know we had tried this year to do an open-ended, like normally we have it like a call for proposals, and we say, okay, here's like the start of the proposal field, and here's the end of the proposal era. We tried saying, okay, we'll just allow anybody to propose at any time up to a certain date, and that didn't really work out. So we've now got a proposal window again, but it is starting pretty early in January. I think we have to start at probably January 8th or 12th or something, and I will actually be away, so I'll be on vacation until January 15th. So I'll automate an email requesting proposals. But if folks have proposals before the opening of the window, I'm not going to turn them away. So we can cheat a little bit on that and be a little bit flexible there. Google Summer of Code. We had 1, I won't name names, but we had one project miss the deadline for their midterm evaluation, and Google was not particularly pleased with that. We were able, it was not unexpected. We did reach out to Google before that happened. So they said, okay, well, that particular project will not be allowed to participate next year, and they won't be allowed to join the mentor summit that is coming up. But the CNCF itself is allowed to
Wait,
continue.
Wait, what happened?
So essentially, one of the mentors went kind of dark, and I spent several days trying to reach out to them and was unable to. I also tried to reach out to the mentee and was not able to get a hold of them either. Essentially, in this situation, I would normally just go do the evaluation myself, or Ali would go in. I think Ali was on vacation at the time, so it was up to me. And I was looking at, okay, so we had no information from the mentor. And because sometimes these projects aren't, they don't show up in GitHub necessarily until like a PA, like sometimes people work on that on their own and then make a big PR rather than incremental PRs. And so I didn't see any activity from the mentee, and I wasn't getting information from the mentor. So I didn't feel confident passing them because I didn't have the information, but I also didn't want to fail them because I didn't, like, I felt like that would be a drastic move as well. And so I reached out to Google for, and actually some other folks in the CNCF organization, looking for guidance. And essentially, had I had it to do again, I would have defaulted to passing them and figured out, okay, well, what's going on? And then we would have course corrected in the second half. And if they in fact failed, would have failed them.
Yeah. I don't know that I necessarily would have passed them. Not if it's one thing if the mentor is not responding and you can't evaluate that way, then we need to do something. But if the mentee is also not responding,
I was confused. Yeah, exactly. And so
you don't really have any reason to believe that they completed their work.
Yeah, and that's so I was torn, and because I had the lack of information, I was like, what do I do here? And so I missed the deadline, and that was on me. I understand that, and I think that I am lucky that Google was like, hey, you reached out to us, you let us know, so this particular project won't get invited back next year, but the CNCF won't be sanctioned. So I'm happy to say that,
yeah,
that having like it's the best of a bad situation. I think
it happens. When I was adminning GSOC for another open source project, over the years, we accumulated a list of people that Google had let us know were not welcome to mentor in the future.
Yeah, and that's I have a personal list of folks who are either very procrastinating or tardy on some of these things. And one of the things that we are looking to do to mitigate this, Ali has actually reached out, and we are able to do this. We can require there be at least 2 mentors for any particular project, and that's I think a constraint that we will be putting on Google Summer of Code projects moving forward. With LFX, it's not as big an issue, and we are more flexible, but I still do I do prefer more. And even with LFX, I've got some chronically tardy mentors that I'm thinking I might reach out to, like when they do their project proposals, I might in those PRs say, can we put in a contingency plan to make sure that we have timely responses? I don't know exactly how I want to phrase that or do that, or if I should yet. So I'm glad I'm bringing it up here. If you have any ideas on that, I'd be happy to hear them.
Yeah, I mean, the problem always is essentially coming up with some sort of ad hoc tracking tooling, because it's too much to keep track of in your head. I know I missed the mentoring meeting this week. It feels like this is a discussion we should continue into the next mentoring meeting.
Yeah, we can add that to
the
sure.
Yeah, I think given the time, we're about halfway through the meeting. I think we need to keep going.
So just real quick then on the rest of GSOC, that particular mentor actually was able to salvage some mentoring and did get some value with that mentee. That person wound up passing, and we still have two that are working because Google has a variable timeline. We've got two that are ongoing and in October and November. So is there anything else that I think that's probably it for mentoring, unless Ali or Jay, you've got anything else to add?
No, but amazing work so far, Nate. That's awesome. And sorry, I missed this week's meeting too, but shout out to Diane. What you're working on is awesome. I'll check that video out. Cheers.
Okay, cool. Next up, we have the contributor growth working group. I see, Noah, you have an update there on the non-code stuff.
It helps if I unmute first. So in the contributor growth meeting, at the end, we had a large number of people showing interest again in putting together a group to talk about the non-code advisory document and several other efforts that go along with that effort. Took me a little bit longer than it should have to put together a doodle poll, but that is, life happens. So the poll is up. I need to get back in touch with other people from the meeting 2 weeks ago to make sure that everybody knows that it's available, so that we can find times for an ideally bi-weekly meeting to jump in and start discussing the advisory document and all the peripheral conversations. Ideally, I want to have the meeting time picked out sometime around October 1st so we can start the week thereafter. That's the whole update.
Sounds good, thanks. Did anything else come out of the contributor growth working group that we need to chat about? Okay.
No, nothing for me.
Okay, governance working group. I admit I missed the meeting, but I added something to the agenda item because I do need to still finalize the Cilium governance assessment. I need to circle back with Liz and make sure she's good with it. She hasn't said she's not, so that's a good sign. But I will follow up with her. But the other question I had, and this is so this is my fault because I was on vacation when you all finalized the governance template. But I'm concerned about the requirement to have point in time links for all of the links in the governance documents, because Cilium, half of them are on the web. So that means I have to dig through the web archive to try and find a point in time link for that page. You have to, dig through to grab the commit link. And I think, so while I understand the reasoning behind that, because it is a point in time assessment, it feels like we're making it a lot more work for ourselves for something that is already hard enough to do, and we already get behind enough on the governance reviews. Because I feel like if somebody wants to look at that point in time thing, they can click on the commits and figure out what it looked like at a particular time. And my other concern is that people reading it and click on a link might not realize that it's a link to a specific commit. I mean, if they look closely at the URL, it's pretty obvious, but they might not, and so they might be looking at an old version of something and not realize it. So I'm not a fan of this, but I also wasn't involved in any of the discussions because I was admittedly on holiday for the whole thing. Josh, you're on mute.
So I mean, a couple of thoughts. I mean, the reason for the point in time thing is part of it was copying what tech security does. And part of it is when we're particularly critiquing, say, some issues with the governance, we wanted to make it clear which version we were critiquing. Because the problem is you can also have the opposite, right? Which is we have callouts for things that need to be resolved. Somebody clicks the link and they're like, but that's not there. And it's because the project actually removed it. So I think that's something which we can sort of resolve. Either way, it almost sounds like we should have both links, which would be more work. This does raise another question, though, which is, for example, the Cilium situation where they have governance documents that are only on the web. Where are those stored? Because like one concern would be like, yeah, because for most projects, stuff that's on the web also resides in a repository somewhere.
It does reside in a repository somewhere.
Okay.
So I could grab those links, but it's also a matter of digging through and finding the actual.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
I'm concerned that we have a hard enough time getting the governance reviews done in a timely manner that making it harder on ourselves is going to make it harder for us to do this as more and more of them are coming in. We don't need to resolve it in this meeting. I wanted to raise my concerns, and we can talk about them offline if that's easier.
Yeah, there's a bigger thing. We have to think about this in the context of the change we're going to be going through for this. Because and this applies to other areas as well. So I'm also on the Projects Moving Levels task force. And one of the things that task force has already agreed on is that we need self-assessment guides for the entire matriculation process. And that will include a governance evaluation self-assessment guide. So one of the things that this changes for us is we're going to be switching from hey, one of our volunteers needs to go through and fill out all this stuff by hand to auditing what the project has already supplied.
That would be way.
Yeah. And so things like the amount of work it takes us to find links might not be a problem. It might be just a matter of, hey, we're going to supply the project with blanks, and maybe we supply them with 2 blanks, right? Here's the canonical location and here's the current version. And that won't increase our workload, and it's pretty trivial for each individual project to put that, because for one thing, they shouldn't have to hunt for it, right? Part of the reason it's a pain for us is we actually have to search for it. They should already know where it is.
Yeah.
So it will mean that it becomes harder for us to evaluate discoverability, which we're actually very good at evaluating right now because we have to discover these things. But I'm willing to live with that because we keep going through this cycle where we do the eval, and in the course of the eval, we find like a bunch of things that are actually relatively easy to fix. And then the project fixes them immediately, and then we have to do a second version of the eval. And I'd rather cut one step out of that cycle.
Yeah.
And just have the project do it themselves in the first place. So, and it'll also remove some of the tension, because the projects tend to regard this as a test rather than a process that is intended to help them improve their governance.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of going to the self-assessments and having the projects do this and having us audit it. I think that's a really good way to go. Okay, for the Cilium one, I guess I just need to suck it up and do the links to the commits. I'll admit I'm not gonna have time to do that. I need to be in Bilbao next week for the open source summit. So I don't know when I'm gonna get to that.
Yeah, well, part of it, one of the things to keep track of is what's really holding up Cilium's graduation, because we've already said on the evaluation that we have a bunch of things that we think they should fix, but none of them are blockers.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're not holding up their graduation. What's holding up the graduation is they apparently have some licensing issues.
Yeah, exactly.
And that'll get resolved on the CNCF legal timeline. So and that's probably actually part of why they were kind of tense about it. They're not actually frustrated with us. They're frustrated with
I had that conversation.
Process. Yeah,
I had that conversation with Liz because they're frustrated because this whole process has taken very long, and they understand that that it is the licensing stuff. They're just frustrated for sure. Okay, I would say if anybody gets bored next week and wants to do some suggested commits with those point in time links, that would be welcome. If not, I'll get to it when I get back from Bilbao.
I was gonna say that I will write you in Slack that I can help replacing those links. Should be okay with some regex or whatever.
Yeah, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
I mean, particularly one of the reasons we need the other reason we need the point in time links is because one of the things projects will do sometimes at our instigation is they will move the documents.
Mhm.
And so then even the original links that were non-version that we supply will stop working. Okay. The other thing is we've done some other governance reviews. Cloud Events, which was our first specification project, like I mentioned earlier, when Sunny joined the call, which is good because we have this to-do of creating a variant on the project templates for specification projects. And now we've actually worked with one specification project, so we have some idea what that looks like.
Yeah.
And if we can get both Cloud Events and Spiffy to help us, we can probably come up with template variations that actually make sense. And the other fun one was Karmata, because it was done by a first-time governance working group contributor. So we actually have added one person to the number of people who can do governance reviews, which
That's
is really
awesome.
nice. Yeah, since that has really been the bottleneck is just not having more people. But having the projects do self-evaluations will speed things up considerably. And that is actually, per TOC, et cetera, that is our biggest priority. Yeah, I was going to say, and then our secondary priority is just being typed in by somebody right there.
Yeah.
You want to link to that document?
Yeah, I can find it.
Okay.
If you want to just go ahead and talk about it while I do that.
Yeah, so we were also asked to prepare a piece of documentation on what it means to be vendor neutral, because the CNCF has a lot of projects that are being run by people for whom this is their first time running a public open source project. And as a result, they know they're supposed to be vendor neutral, but they don't really know what that means. And they're messing up. And you can't even blame them for messing up because nobody's told them what to do. So that's actually kind of our secondary priority, the self-evaluation guide, but it's almost done, so we can actually get it published. I mean, I kind of feel like what we have there is pretty good.
Yeah, Bill did a great job. He took
Yeah.
a bunch of feedback from Emily and other people and put it all together in a doc, and it's solid.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the one thing is, while we're all looking at that, is do I need more detail on public events? I was trying to keep it brief. But I've actually received specific instruction from CNCF events on how we have to treat public events in a vendor neutral way.
So that one, I was writing that comment about events. So I was looking for CNCF repos about vendor neutrality. I only found one thing.
Yeah.
In community groups, I think it was the repo about vendor neutrality that it says, yeah, you should be vendor neutral. But that's it. There was no other explanation.
Right. It doesn't explain, right? And the thing is that the event staff does have specifications on what that means. Like, one of the things I put in there is, if any vendor is going to financially sponsor an event, then you actually have to have an open call for sponsorships. You can't just take money from the most convenient sponsor who happens to show up for one of your meetings, and be done.
So my plan is now to, after this document is done, I'm gonna take it to the events team or community groups team, and I will say, hey, we have this document. Maybe you can also define vendor neutral. What does that mean for community groups and events and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is, if they end up giving us a whole bunch of material, we might spin off a secondary document, because we do want project leads to read the whole thing, and that means trying to keep it compact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my thinking is, please don't wait for that input, and just work on the document if you like.
Okay, well, at least one of our liaisons is already +1 dead. So I do think this is enough of a policy statement, and I can check with our liaisons about this, but there's enough of a policy statement we might need to run it past the TOC mailing list before it becomes part of contribute.cncf.io. I'll see what Emily and Dave think about that.
Yeah, I'd leave that up to Emily and Dave to decide.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going because we still have stuff on the agenda and we only have 15 more minutes. Looks like there are no updates on Maintainer Circle. Deaf Hard of Hearing Initiative.
Okay, so yeah, created a PR to make it an official working group. So hopefully we'll get that approved soon. Josh and Don, I don't know if I added what it's needed, if you could have a look and just see if anything is missing. And Rob Koch agreed to be our co-chair, so co-chair. Right now we just have one. Hopefully we'll have another one soon. And also excited that at KubeCon we're gonna have some presents. So we're gonna do a lightning talk on the initiative, and Rob applied for the scholarship, and if he gets it, we will make sure that he's on stage as well. Then, as you might know, we're gonna have deaf and hard of some deaf members, probably like not one for sure, maybe two, participate in our Montana session. And then I'm working on another opportunity. I don't want to spoil anything yet, but hopefully it's gonna work out. So if that works out, we're gonna have like 3 talks with deaf people on the stage, which would be very, very cool. And so right now, I think like the main documents we're working on is one where because we thought like if you're a conference organizer, project owner, or whatever, the first thing that you have to understand is that deaf and hard of hearing are not a one size fits all. So we thought like the first thing would be actually, what does it mean? What is deaf? What is hard of hearing? How do they communicate? They don't communicate all the same way. Like some speak, some sign. So kind of have like a very introductory document where anyone interested can kind of learn about all the differences. Yeah. And then the second one that we want to prioritize is recommendations for conference organizers. And again, one of the things we want to do is like, it's going to be on a website and anyone should be able to use that, send that to any conference, be it CNCF or otherwise, or tech or non-tech, right? It should be a resource for anyone, but our primary audience, of course, is the CNCF, and the CNCF will be the first institution where we're going to go and say like, hey, here are recommendations that we created. Any chance you can implement those at CNCF events. So that's why I want to prioritize that, and especially because I didn't even think that we would have members in Chicago already, but looks like we will. We might even have 3. So that puts a little bit of makes this a little bit more of a priority.
Can you let me know then when that doc is mostly ready? Because I also, with my work on the Chaos Project, we badge events for DEI. So we have a DEI badging thing for events, and a lot of the Linux Foundation events and others are badged through this process. And I would love to be able to link to that from some of our stuff so that people can make their events more accessible to this community as well. So I would love to be able to link to that.
Awesome. Sure, we'll do. If there aren't any questions, I would move to higher ed.
Yeah. One question I have is, so that's going to take place after that. And I know I missed the meeting this week again. The too many meetings. Recommendations for like project leads and project meeting runners.
Yeah, we have that on a pipeline as well. So we have several, and it's going to be probably like a shorter version than like the conference. Of course, you can expect more. We want to do like big conferences. We're going to do community events. It's like, of course, if you're a KCD, you cannot expect all the, and if you're a project, again, you can. So one of the things that we want to do is be realistic, right? Like not ask everything. So it is on the pipeline, but we did kind of want to focus on conferences first, just because KubeCon is coming up. But that is in our to-do list. And I'm pretty sure that once we have the conference one, it's going to be very easy to create the other ones, because you're basically just taking things off because they have less budget, right? So they're not a project. Anything else? Or okay, I'll move to higher ed. So I'm putting now higher ed initiative. and parenthesis cloud native curriculum, because it was a little confusing for people, because there are actually 3 separate higher ed related efforts. We have the students, we have the curriculum, and then we have something about a paper reading group. Nate, do you want to say something, or you want to say that that's
and also potentially mentoring? I would love to get in mentoring involved in higher ed. I think that there's a lot of syncopacity. That's not a word, but between the mentoring program and like co-op programs and such. I'd love to get my foot into that particular door. But and actually to that end, I have a meeting later on today with faculty member from another university that I didn't realize that we were doing this as an initiative, and I would like to jump in and get more information. So I'll let you keep talking. Sorry.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like, once you start talking about higher ed, there's so much potential, right? And then I think that's why, like, probably just higher ed initiative was not a really good name, because it's very broad. But it's great to see that so many people are coming with ideas. But we decided to keep them separate for now, because like each effort is very has like a single goal, right? And so we want to make sure that each group makes some progress and has something to show for, and basically prove themselves as well. And then the CNCF also needs to find a proper home, because it cannot be a tag, because tags have to be project specific and so on. So we're gonna keep each other in the loop, so we know that we exist, and at some point, and right now the curriculum one is kind of housed within the this tag, but eventually we want to create something that is higher ed specific, and then all these initiatives can kind of be there and collaborate, and you have all these separate groups doing separate things that are very much related. And so we have 5 faculty members. We have a lot of other members as well, which is kind of exciting to see that people are interested. But the most important things, we need faculty on board, right? Because like if people are not part of faculty, it's not going to work. So we have 5. 2 seem to be particularly committed, so that's great. And right now there are like 2 meetings per month, and the idea is to get the ball rolling. And the goal is, and particularly those 2 members that are committed kind of brainstormed a little bit, and the idea was to create one mini one-off course, something that is one class. And the idea was particularly one person had a little bit of concern of reaching out to people without having anything to show, so they want to have that and say like, hey, this is what we're going for. This is a one-off course. Use it. If you like it, we would like to get you involved, and use that as a recruitment tool. Yes, Nate?
I'm muted, sorry. Have you reached out to, so we have the CNCF, somebody whose job is training and training courses and whatnot, Christophe Saltier, as well as Chris Anichuk is also super involved in training. It might be worth reaching out to one of them if you're starting to build courses around this, because we have resources to help with that.
Yeah, Christoph knows, and I actually didn't think about him. I knew that he was doing it, but he showed up in the meeting. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, and part of it for the bigger organization thing is that they need a sort of container for these efforts that is not a tag. And honestly, in August, practically all of the staff took vacations. So so there just hasn't, they haven't been able to deal with sort of new stuff at all.
I just wanted to make sure that those dots were connected and whatnot. You're absolutely right. A bunch of us took time off in August.
Yeah. So
and Chris also knows, because he was the first person we reached out to. So
yeah, we'll get there, and TagCS will continue to host the higher ed thing until there is a different container to put it into.
Do you have monthly meetings set up and whatnot for that? I'd be maybe interested in jumping in myself.
Yeah, should be on the is on the CNCF calendar. It's every not every 2 weeks, because it's twice a month.
Cool.
right now. And if there are no questions, I have a miscellaneous thing. Okay, and then so we wanted to set up that CNCF 1Password thing for the tag, and there is like some stuff with forking, and it's like, oh, that's like, I don't know. It's like I'm in marketing, so I said, you know, so it's like who
for that, have you reached out to Taylor Wagoner? I believe would be the person.
No, this is something one of us has to do.
Oh, because there's a CNCF 1Password. It might be. I would talk to Taylor.
We've been told specifically that we have to ask for one of the 1Password free accounts.
Oh, in that case, then ignore me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I just have not gotten around to filling out the forms and stuff. Rian, Ollie, if one of you wanted to do that, it would be completely appropriate as tech lead.
I'll reach out to you, Josh, and then we can offline discuss and I'll arrange it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a link. We're just basically requesting a free account as an open source project. They have apparently done that for other divisions of CNCF. And I think you basically get a family account, so you can have up to 5 connected logins.
I think they've got open source accounts as well.
So
yeah.
And we are like family, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have brought up with the CNCF that we need a less ad hoc solution, because multiply this out across all of the CNCF projects. But the problem is you multiply it out across all the CNCF projects, and from a CNCF perspective, it becomes a major effort to supply anything else.
This is why I'll take this offline, because we only have so much time, but I'm curious about that whole process, because I think consolidating is better than splitting, but it's if you've been told directly, then that's something else.
Yeah, no, this is what we have right now.
Yeah.
This actually came up through the project's moving levels task force as well, because somebody wanted to add a requirement for D-bus factoring for CNCF projects, and I'm like, well, it's great to recommend that, but if we don't have any infrastructure to support it, we can't require it. And currently we don't, but there's very good reasons not to have, because across 160 projects, it's not trivial to supply that infrastructure. You know, even if you're doing it through a third-party vendor, there's still access management involved. So I think they'll have it, but in the short term, we really need it ourselves, and so asking 1Password for a free account seems to be the way to go. On a temporary basis.
Okay, so we have an action item. We have an action item for that. We only have 3 more minutes. So we do have some stuff that we need to promote. So the roadmap blog was posted on the CNCF website, so we need to get that out there. So we need to get that on the socials. I don't know if somebody has access to Mastodon and things and can get that posted.
Yeah.
And talk to the CNCF about getting it reboosted.
Yep,
tweeted.
I will post it in Mastodon.
Okay. And then for the monthly,
this is why we need 1Password. Both Catherine and I have the Mastodon credentials, but I use Mastodon a lot more.
Them as well, but
so,
yeah.
Okay, cool. So Josh has the action item for that. The deadline for the monthly maintainer newsletter is today. So can we get that roadmap item in that newsletter?
Yeah. How do we submit things to the newsletter?
You asked me to put them in.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Great.
Or Amy as well. She's got access.
Okay.
Also, who's the other person I would ask? Katie Greenlee. I don't think. Yeah. So those are the Katie, Amy, and I. But for this context, probably me.
Okay, so Nate's gonna add the roadmap blog. Is there anything else we need to add to the maintainer newsletter?
How do you want that? Is it?
Yeah, one thing I was going to say, CNCF social media does Twitter and LinkedIn currently, but not Mastodon.
Okay.
So we can bug them about echoing both Twitter and LinkedIn posts. So actually, one of the questions here is, who's going to post on Twitter for the roadmap blog.
Do you want to do that, Rian? Since you wrote it?
No, sorry, I don't have Twitter.
Okay.
You could ask in the, you
I-
can ask in the social, what is it, social dash media channel.
Well, we
and-
have to give them something to retweet,
Well, there it
so
is.
we have to post it somewhere.
I can do it if no one wants, but it's like
I don't have an account either, so
I hardly use Twitter, but I am happy to
Yeah.
post some things so people can reshare. Should I do that, or is anyone else?
I can
It's
also
like
do
you.
it.
Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah,
Yep.
do it.
Okay, and then Rian did post the LinkedIn post, so everyone please be sure to share that as well.
Cool.
It's not
And I
only
think
we have to share as well, right?
I think Nate, if you can work with Rian on the wording, I think that would be,
Yeah, absolutely. We can take that offline and get that out.
yeah.
Who am I working with on what needs to go into the newsletter and how it should be formatted?
Rian for the roadmap thing.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I think we're out of time. Thanks, everybody.
Good
I think
seeing
this
you
is
all.
a,
Hope
this is a
you-
good meeting. It's
Yeah,
good to see
good night.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right,
Cool.
bye, everybody.
Bye.